Welcome to Spectrum Perspectives, real talk with parents, professionals, and autism advocates, with your host, Cindy Gellermini.
You know, social skills are usually an issue. Like how is Logan with other people with his social skills? Sounds like he would do okay, no?
Yeah, he does not too bad in an outside setting. So if we go out somewhere, he'll be quite sociable and he'll say hi and that kind of stuff. And he'll bend someone's ear about dinosaurs and stuff. But when we're in the house, like if we have anyone over to the house, we won't see him. He'll be in his room. That's his safe space. That's his comfortable area. And he'll maybe pop down to say hi. But he'll not really show too much interest, and he'll just kind of go back up to his room. He's not. It's weird. It's strange because when you see him outside in an outside setting, if we go somewhere, he can be very sociable and say hi and all the rest of it. And sometimes it'll just be somebody passing the street. Like sometimes, you know, smaller kids will like wave and say hi, and Logan will try and start having a conversation with them. Whereas at home, he's just not interested at all. He just likes his own area to himself.
Do you have any funny stories about your kids? Anything that
Logan is hilarious. Logan is somewhat of a comedian. I don't think he realizes it sometimes, and just, you know what, sometimes just some of the stuff he comes out with is hilarious. And you're just like, where did you think? Here's the thing, and I didn't know this. I didn't even know this existed. About 3 months ago, Logan says to me, "Dad, have you ever tried Crystal Pepsi?" And I was like, "The heck's Crystal Pepsi?" I was like, "There's no such thing as Crystal Pepsi." He's like, yeah, there is. They make it and blah, 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 blah. And he told me a whole story about Crystal Pepsi. And I thought, he's totally making this up, like from something. It's like he's put two things together and he's just made like one thing up. And I was like, no. So I think was it the week in between Christmas and New Year, I get a notification on my phone. It's like every day I get like an Apple notification, the top stories in the news. The third story on that was they're bringing back Crystal Pepsi.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, I ran down the stairs and I was like, Rachel, you have to see this, because he'd been going on about it for ages. And I was like, you have to see this. And it's this Crystal Pepsi. Basically it tastes exactly like normal Pepsi, just instead of it being that dark color, basically they take the caramel extract out so it makes it clear. And I was like, how the heck did he know this 3 months ago? Like, where did he hear it? So we think he's maybe seen it like on a YouTube video or something. People have been talking about it. I don't know why Pepsi decided to bring it back. Apparently they're bringing it back for like a limited edition type thing. But apparently back in the 70s, they had Crystal Pepsi. It ran for about 6 months, and then they stopped making it and just made their normal regular Pepsi.
Right.
But like I was so amazed that he'd picked up on this little detail about Crystal Pepsi being a thing, which I guess I had no idea was.
Right.
And then just all of a sudden, they're bringing it back. So they're bringing it back to the UK as well. So we're gonna have to get some. The ironic thing is, because of texture, Logan doesn't like pop. He doesn't like fizzy drinks, which is good for his teeth, obviously. But he hates fizzy drinks. He just doesn't like the texture. So he's not even going to taste it. Right. But we have to do it for him.
Right. Does he have any other kind of sensory issues? Like, is he sensitive to? You said he doesn't like loud sounds, right? He doesn't like that texture. In his texture in his mouth. Is he a picky eater? Either of your boys? I would think the other one, your younger one, is probably a pickier eater, or no?
No, actually it's the opposite. Logan is exceptionally picky. His diet is very much the same things all the time, until the last couple of weeks. I think it's just been with Christmas and us eating different kind of meals than we would normally eat. He's shown a bit more interest. And just a couple of weeks ago, he said, "Oh, I really want to try a hot dog." And I was like, "Hot dog?" Like, because he basically eats chicken, tortillas, cheese, cereals. Like, he does not realm out of that kind of little group of foods. And I was like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah." So my wife bought like store-bought hot dogs. He hated them. He was like, "No, I don't like that at all." And we were at the zoo, again, in between Christmas and New Year. Took him to the zoo because he loves going there. And there was a hot dog stand. There isn't usually, but they had one because there'd been an event on. And I said, "Well, do you want to try a proper hot dog?" Not that there was anything wrong with your mum's, but do you want to try a proper one? Because these were smoked and had been made, and they were kind of posh. And so he says, "Okay, I'll give it a try." And in all fairness to him, like, yeah, completely plain. It didn't have any ketchup or mustard or onions or anything on. He just wanted it, and he nibbled away at it at first. And to be fair, he ate half of the thing. And then he was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of done with it now." It wasn't that he didn't like it; he was just done with it. Like, he had that experience. Now he was ready to move on. So, so now he is very picky. Whereas Carter, if you put food down in front of him, he'll just eat it. He just doesn't. He can't. His motor skills with his hands aren't great, so he doesn't tend to use a knife and fork. So it has to be stuff he can kind of pick up. But yeah, you put food down to Carter, and he will at least taste it. I mean, a lot of the time, if it's something new, he'll put it against his mouth and he'll kind of lick it, and he'll kind of play about with it to begin with. And then all of a sudden it'll disappear, and he'll be like, "That's quite nice." And then he'll go for it. But he's a lot less sensitive to different foods and textures.
Right. So after having the first two diagnosed with autism, were you concerned that the third one would be as well? I mean, that had to be in your head.
Yeah, that was definitely in our head, especially with us kind of recognizing with Carter quite early on, that he was showing similar kind of traits. So,
but at that point, by the time Carter was showing signs, you probably already had
there's only 18 months between them. Yeah, so Rachel was already pregnant by that point. So I think when we had Logan and autism came up and everything else, we had kind of decided we'll maybe leave it a while if we do have more kids, because there is that risk. And then we kind of were like, screw it, we'll just do it. And we always wanted to have two. That was kind of what we had planned. The third one maybe wasn't exactly planned. So the third one was a little bit of a shock. Certainly when I got the phone call to say, "Oh, I've done some pregnancy tests, and yeah, you're going to be a dad again." So that was a little bit of a shock. So autism the third time round, it hadn't really been in our thoughts because we weren't really planning on having a third. Glad we did, but it wasn't really in the plan. But yeah, we just kind of, the way we dealt with it was, if he's autistic, he's autistic. Like, that's just the way it's going to be. And better born to us than someone else that maybe wouldn't care so much.
Right. Do people ever ask you, what do you think causes it? I mean, don't use the V word, because I don't want to get censored. Just because people ask me all the time, like I'm some kind of an expert just because I have an autistic kid, they're like, "Oh, what do you think causes it? Like, do you think it's genetic?" Basically is what I'm asking, because it's, you've got, 2 out of your 3.
I think a couple of people have asked me now and again, and I just kind of like, who knows what causes it? Like, there can be, like, in the UK there was a thing, I don't know if you had this happen in the US, but when kids are born, they go through like a series of getting. And there was one.
That's the word you can't use. I'm
All
gonna have
right,
to.
so you have to bleep that out.
Mhm,
Well, there was the MMR
mhm,
version
mhm.
in the UK, and there was this one doctor, and it was when I was a kid that he kind of came out and was like, "Well, this is causing autism. This is
Mm.
like this and everything else," and um, so there's that whole thing. So I think people remember that as well. So people will ask me about it, like,
Right.
"Oh, did your kids get all their shots?" So and we made sure they got all their shots.
Mhm. And did
And
they
they
ever
get
did they get sick afterward, get fevers, anything like that? That you could remember?
no, not really.
Mhm,
In the UK, we get like a flu shot every year.
mhm,
And the two oldest boys get that now as well.
mhm.
And I think Logan, for one of them, he got a bit ill for a couple of days, but after that was fine. But obviously that was much later. You don't get those until you're a bit older, till you're about 5 or
Right,
6. So
right. Yeah, that's just one of the things that I kind of get at in my interviews too, to hear everybody's story as far as that goes. Like who's telling me that their kid had the MMR, then they got sick, had a fever, da da da, and then when the fever went away, they were gone. And then
mm,
there's other people that have no story like that at all.
yeah, it's. I just remember from when I was a kid, there was like a whole court case down in London, and it went to like the High Court and all this kind of stuff. And I just remember that, and I think because it was such big news at the time, people do still remember that being a thing. And I think it's the first thing a lot of people think about when they think of MMR as well. So
Mhm.
it's just something that I think in the UK it's just always been a thing.
Yeah, I mean, in your case, it seems like it's the fact that you have a cousin that was autistic, and then you've got, two
Mm.
two kids, not just one. It sounds genetic to me. Did anybody ever tell you to do genetic testing?
So I had genetic testing because I have neurofibromatosis. So we had done some genetic testing because we wanted to make sure that that didn't get kind of passed on.
And what is that?
Um,
What is that?
so it's like elephant man disease.
Oh,
So I had that since I was like 9 years old,
mhm,
and when I turned 27, Rachel was pregnant, and I was kind of I was just something I was kind of worried about. It was like, am I going to pass this on?
mhm,
Because I really don't want to do that.
mhm,
So they tested me, and when Logan was born, they tested him, and like they said, there was like a less than 1% chance that could be passed on. But
mhm.
as far as genetic testing had went, that's as far as it went. We are now, because of Carter having epileptic seizures now, and having them on a regular basis, the doctors are doing some genetic testing now, in terms of that as well. So, but Logan's never had a seizure. It's only just been Carter, and it's
Mhm.
just very recently that started.
And how often has he had one? A seizure?
So he's had one a month since October.
Mm,
So
like
and in
full
fact,
on grand mal seizures or?
oh yeah, like the first one lasted, and this was the doctor's concern, was the first one lasted like an hour and 45 minutes.
What?
Yeah, and then the second one was about an hour as well. So it was crazy.
Yikes. For us, if it lasted over a minute, he had to go to the hospital.
Oh
Over a
yeah,
minute.
I think the issue with the first one was we didn't know he was having a seizure.
Mhm,
Like we'd never seen a seizure before.
mm,
He'd been sitting at the table. He just finished his breakfast. He was watching his iPad, and I was playing with Cooper. And I looked up at Carter, and I was like, "Looks a bit grey." I was like, "Carter, are you okay?" And didn't look at me. He was just like
yeah,
looking straight ahead.
right.
And all of a sudden, he just started puking up.
Yeah,
And I was like, "Oh man, you got a tummy bug. Let's
yeah,
pick you up. Let's get you cleaned off."
uh-huh,
Some more came out, and I was like, "Oh man, what is going on?" And like you're just kind of cleaning him up, and he's shivering. But sometimes, when you're sick,
yeah,
you shiver after it. So
Right.
I'm like, okay, carried him upstairs, got him showered, got him
Yeah.
changed. And it wasn't until you kind of looked at him, I was like, something not right. My wife was having a look and she was like, yeah. And then his legs were kind of going full out, solid as a rock. Like you couldn't bend his knees or anything. And his eyes were like rolling at the back of his head. So we were kind of like, okay, what is this? Like, this isn't just sick. This isn't just a sick bug.
Yeah.
And then we phoned the ambulance, and the ambulance came, took him to the hospital, gave him
Yeah.
they had to give him the drug to take him out of it.
Yeah.
So the first time was a lot of it was kind of our fault because we didn't know
Yeah.
what to look for.
Right.
And we got a bit of a, not gonna lie, we got a real big shock and a bit of a fright. And then the second one, he was actually at school, and basically the exact same thing happened. The teachers didn't realize that he was having a seizure. He'd been sick, but they didn't realize he'd had a seizure. And I got there, picked him up, put him in the car. I said, I'm just going to take him to the hospital just to get him checked over and make sure he's okay. He fell asleep, and the hospital is like literally a 5-minute drive from the school. School's just around the corner, and he woke up, puked again, and he actually started seizing in the car as I was driving. And I was like, no, what do I do? I'm just like, so I just kind of put the foot down, got to the hospital, and kind of got him in and got him seen straight away. And they just administered the drugs straight away. With his third seizure, by this point, they'd given him the diagnosis of epilepsy.
Did they give you meds for him? Did they give you meds to take him out of the seizure?
Yeah, so that's what they did. They gave us meds. So when his third one happened, my wife administered the meds.
Is it the one rectally or under the tongue?
No, it's on the side of the mouth, on the inside, where you rub it in. And so she did that, but they said to us, like, basically, it doesn't matter whether you give him that or not. He still has to come to the hospital. You still have to get an ambulance.
Right.
And that was the time I was away. So my wife, that was the first time my wife had dealt with it on her own as well.
Got it.
So that was like a whole other level of stress, especially when I was like 50 miles up the road. So we kind of dealt with that. And to be fair, the doctors and the medical staff have been great. When it's come to the epilepsy, he's like got his own epilepsy nurse and all this kind of stuff that's available. So no, I went a bit tonto with kind of security and stuff, because I was like, right, because the unfortunate thing, and this is where things kind of got really emotional for Logan, is last April, a kid in his class died. He had an epileptic fit at night in his bed. No one knew until the morning when they went to wake him up. So Logan's first thought when he heard epilepsy was, that's what happened to Link. And so he got very concerned. Obviously, the doctors have to have that chat with you as well, that's what can happen.
You know, that's what happened to my son. Do you know that?
Yeah. So
it's very hard to explain to the siblings. That he's going to be okay, because you don't know, so it's just this added stress on the whole family.
So what I did was to kind of put everyone's mind at ease, probably mine as well, as we went out and brought cameras with sensors and sound monitor things that all sit above Carter's bed. And me and my wife my wife, to be fair, because I sleep like a baby, but my wife's phone, as soon as, like, even if Carter rolls over in his sleep, like, we get an alert on the phone.
Yes, I was going to say, because I heard there's some kind of a sensor that can tell the motion in the bed or something like that. Yeah, like if there's a vibration or something. Yeah.
So, I mean, the doctor said you could go old school, and she said if you put like a bell underneath the bed, if it's got like slats underneath, you put a bell under there, and when they're moving around, the bell goes. I was like,
but then it's like every time he turns over, you're gonna hear the bell all night long.
Just gonna wake him up. But yeah, so I put cameras in there, in the room. It's got video, motion sensors, sound sensors, the whole lot. And that was just, that has put our minds at ease a lot more, lets us sleep a bit more easily. But obviously it is a real concern because, and I was always of the opinion, like when I got sick and I was dealing with surgeries, like I've had like 14 surgeries, and for me that's fine. I can handle that. It's just me going through surgeries. But it's different when it's your kids, and I think I probably now have more of appreciation for my mum having to go through with me my surgeries now that I'm kind of going through stuff with my boys as well. So I probably have a bit more of compassion and understanding for what my mum went through.
Yeah, your poor mom, right? Yeah. Do you have any pets?
No.
Just because I'm just thinking, I think dogs, I think, are trained to pick up, they can sense a seizure before it comes even, you know, and I'm just thinking if the dog was sleeping in your son's bed, you know, it would know, and it would probably, you know, pick up on it.
There's services in the UK where, and this was before epilepsy, we had looked at getting a dog for Logan. And our landlord at the time was like, no dogs under any circumstance. So we were kind of not in a position really to be able to do it. Now that we've moved and epilepsy has obviously come up, that is something that, you know, me and my wife are talking about again. That might be a good idea to have a dog. One, it's good for the boys as well. And we're in a bigger place now as well, so we could probably fit a dog in as well.
Yeah, boys always want a dog, except who's got to clean up after him though every day? Who's got to?
So that was my wife's argument.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, sure, you can have a dog as long as you're going to scoop the poop. So tell us about your podcast. Total switch of subject, but I would like my viewers, if they would like to keep listening to you, and if they're into sports, I would like them to hear your podcast. You've got several. How many do you have? Like 4 or 5 now?
Seven.
7. Man, you just keep growing.
Yeah, so I don't host them all, thankfully, because I don't have that kind of time. But I run Across the Pond Sports Network. At the moment, we're a network of podcasts. So we've got Across the Pond NHL, Across the Pond NBA, NFL. And basically, we've got a person out in the North America, person here in the UK, and they get together and talk about sports. It's a lot of fun. And we're growing. We have more podcasts on the way, and we're kind of revamping our website to have articles and all this kind of stuff. And you know, we've got some long-term big goals, kind of next 5-10 years. So we're kind of thinking that far ahead already, which is a bit strange considering all I did was start a podcast like a year and a half ago, and that's all it was going to be.
Like July of like a year and a half ago, right? And you just started just yourself, just because you're just a guy that likes sports. Right? You just wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've always had this love for American sports, and I was kind of like, I'll do a podcast, see what happens. And, you know, it kind of grew and it morphed and evolved to 2 podcasts, and 3, then 4, then 5, and 6 and 7. And it just kind of has grown. And luckily, like I have amazing people that I've met and that have come on and done these podcasts with me. And, you know, they do their own shows and it's their own content and stuff, but we just kind of all do it under Across the Pond. And, you know, it's not I always say it's not mine, Across the Pond. It's kind of all of ours, because we all put a lot of work into it and stuff. And I like how we've kind of made our own kind of community, and we'll help each other out and stuff, which is awesome as well. So it's going well. NFL's coming up to Super Bowl next month, and so I'm ramping up for that. But no, still got a day job, so still have to pay the bills. But
I was gonna say, so when did you do it? You must do it at night, right?
Yeah, so like this kind of time that we're recording now, it is generally when I will record podcasts, which kind of works as well for time difference, because it means it's like afternoon in the US. So that kind of works, because if I was to do it like during the day in the UK, it'd be like early morning, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. in the US. So trying to get people, we did have an interview once. I do the WNBA with Michelle Snow, who used to play in the WNBA. And she said, "Oh, I'll get one of my friends to come on. She's brilliant. It'll be a right laugh." I was like, "Ah, cool, no problem. That's fine." Lisa Willis came on. She also played in the WNBA. And she came on. She's like, "I'm on the West Coast. I did not realize it was going to be this
Oh.
early."
Oh yeah, West Coast is even worse. Oh yeah, that's even 3 hours behind me.
And I
Yeah.
was like, Michelle, because Michelle was in the East. She was in
Yes.
Tampa. And Michelle was like, "Oh, yeah, I never thought about that."
Yeah, yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't even my fault.
Yeah. So that's 8 hours behind you.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So like when we do like Christmas and stuff, we did video
Mhm.
calls with my parents out in the Bay Area. So we usually, it was weird. Usually we catch them in the morning, like our morning, like 6 a.m. for us is like 9 p.m. for them, 10 p.m. And usually we catch them, but the boys this year all slept in on Christmas Day. So
Oh.
my parents had already gone to bed.
Oh.
So we had to wait till at night our time before they
Yeah.
got up, so we could kind of do a video call then.
Oh, right. Yeah, I haven't even thought of that. Yeah. Yeah, it's like phone calls home for your parents. So for your podcast, so how can they find you now? So you don't do video like this, you just do audio, or do you also put on video?
So we're evolving. So we've been on Fireside, which is an app people can download. It's a thing that Mark Cuban kind of put some money behind. And basically it's like live podcasting. So we do our NFL show on there. Everything else at the moment is kind of audio only through like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, that kind of thing. But we are venturing out into YouTube. So we've done some stuff on YouTube. And I think as this year progresses, we'll be doing a lot more video content because that seems to be what people like. People, I've always said this as well, people like to buy into people, and if they can see your face, they kind of buy into that more.
Right.
So we're going down the video route,
Right.
which is a lot more fun. And if you do it live with an audience as well, like we do it on Fireside, that brings up some added challenges.
Live. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Do people call in or no?
So
Or it's just the two of
yeah,
you talking, you and the co-host?
so
I mean, people
yeah,
that could be dangerous with people, calling in, talking, asking questions, and it's live. You can't edit language or anything like that.
So we've got there's an audience down there, and generally the audience is Fireside is very particular about who who they let on Fireside. So people to get on Fireside, you kind of have to be vetted. So I think they look at your social media and stuff, see what kind of content you're putting out, kind of thing. So we've been on there for the whole of the NFL season. We've been on there doing our live shows, and it's been good because you can get guests on, and it's all video, it's all live, and it is fun, and it means you can have comments, so people can actually type comments and you can read them out, or you can invite them up and you can hear them speak and stuff. So you can do it one of two ways. So we've not had any issues, thankfully. We had Glenn Lundy on from Breakfast of Champions this week, and that guy's like a ball of energy, and he is just mental into the Raiders, and it was so much fun, and you can see the audience because you can like drop emojis and stuff and laugh and clap and all this kind of stuff, and it's good because it's interactive as well, so people can actually join in on the show as well. It's not just some people obviously always just like listening, but it's added value, I think, because it gives the listener, your fans, something a bit extra to do, and gets them involved in the show.
Right. Yeah. Interactive is always fun. Do you ever have athletes on the show?
Yeah, so we've had a few. We've had a couple of WNBA players. We've had a Canadian who plays hockey in Slovakia or Slovenia, because after you know what we noticed after he'd been on, suddenly we had a load of listeners from Slovenia,
Oh.
which was amazing.
Mhm.
So that was kind of fun. But yeah, we've had some play, and I think the difficult part with players is schedules and getting those in. So we have a lot of media members come on. We've had like Kerith Burke, um, Kristen Kenny was supposed to come on, but again schedules were just crazy and just trying to get people on. So so it's a lot of fun. It is a challenge. But yeah, I think we're kind of plodding along, and we are getting a reputation on both sides of the pond that we are quite, socially aware. So like we're getting more involved in more women's sports. So we've already got the WNBA, but now we're looking into women's soccer, starting a podcast for that. Women's ice hockey is becoming more popular. So and these sports or women's sports are not really represented in the media as much as men's. So there isn't a whole lot of podcasts for these sports either. So if we can get the right people in to do these, like I love the WNBA, it was one of my passion projects. Like when we started the network, I was like, oh, I'd love to do a WNBA. I was very fortunate to land Michelle as a co-host, because she's played 13 years in the WNBA and all around Europe and everywhere else. And it's cool because with that kind of show, we get to tell the stories of the women, because they have a lot of adversity. Like if you look at even just what they have to do in a year, so they'll complete a WNBA season, but then to make sure that they can survive and continue to make money, they have to go out to Europe and Asia and Australia to play a whole new season. So they don't really get an off season, because as soon as that season finishes, they're back in the States and they're playing in the WNBA. So it's been good to be able to tell those stories as well, about, a lot of adversity, because they go to foreign countries like Russia. So they have to learn a new language, new foods, new everything. So and play basketball in a completely different environment. So there's a lot of challenges, and it's great for us to be able to kind of talk about them coming through college and what that takes at that level, and to get noticed and recognized, so that you can, because it's a lot different to that of the NBA, for example. Like for the NBA, there's loads of TV cameras everywhere, even in high school games, whereas it's not quite the same for women.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Well, that's good. Good for you. You're bringing some attention to women in sports. I think that's great. Great. They deserve it. So you're also on Instagram.
Yes, we are. Across the Pond Sports Network on Instagram.
It's not ATP, it's Across the Pond.
It's the whole thing. We got kicked off Twitter. I don't know why. They didn't like us too much, so I wasn't a big fan of theirs either, to be fair. But we're on Facebook as well. Facebook Across the Pond Sports Network. So we've got a group on there. We drop kind of a bit more kind of exclusive content on there, kind of direct to fans. And yeah, like I say, we're kind of venturing out into Pinterest. That seems to be somewhere where a lot of audience kind of can search for things. So
Pinterest has changed. Like speaking of, you got kicked off of Twitter. I got kicked off of Facebook a year ago, and I lost my autism page, my business page, my personal page. I lost it all. I lost thousands of followers, all gone. I had to start all over again. And my Pinterest page was connected to my Facebook page, and I didn't know what my passwords were and stuff. So I haven't been able to get on my Pinterest page since November of last year. And I finally fixed it all. So I haven't been on it. And now it's just turned into a page where people are selling stuff. Like before, it used to be just, oh, find a picture of you like, and like, oh, I want to remodel my house. Let me pin these things, these nice ideas. Now you click on it, it brings you right to Walmart or wherever, and it's like, it's turned into a shopping, a shopping app. It's very different now. So who knows? It's evolving, I guess. That's interesting that you could use Pinterest. I would never even would have thought of that.
It was a strategy somebody had kind of brought up, where podcasters aren't on Pinterest, but Pinterest is Google searchable.
Right.
So if you type in across the pond, it's likely that you're going to get a Pinterest hit before you get like a podcast hit. So
Oh,
so that's the
interesting.
way that, yeah, so it seems to be quite good. We kind of laid off it over Christmas and New Year's. We kind
And
of
then
slowed down like everyone. But
you post on Pinterest. What do you post? You post a photo of that episode and then it links to, if they click on it, it brings you to the link to the episode or
yeah,
whatever?
we usually put like a video clip up, and then like a link to it, and people can
And a
just go
link to
straight to the
it where?
episode.
Where
So
do you think?
we've got our own Apple channel on Apple Podcasts.
Okay.
With
So
all
it
our
brings you
podcasts
just to
on
the
it, so
audio. It just brings
yeah,
you to the
just
audio podcast. So
yeah.
you've got a little video clip, and then if they click on it, it brings you to like the Apple audio podcast.
Yeah, so
Got it. Oh, okay. Maybe I'm supposed to do this too. Who knows? I don't know. I follow whatever you do. I'm like, oh, look, oh, James has got some good graphics. I guess I need graphics. All righty. All right. I kept you on here long enough. What time is it there? It's like 10:30 at night.
it
Where
is
are your kids?
10:20.
Are the kids in bed when you do your podcast?
So yeah, usually they're in bed. So like I usually schedule everything around them being in bed.
Yeah.
And my wife like having a bath or like just disappearing.
Yeah.
But tonight, my father-in-law turned 70 last week. So my wife and two of my boys are away at a hotel, celebrating with him. And Carter is up in his bed snoring. So he's absolutely out for the count. And yeah, we just had a boys' day today with me and
Nice.
Carter. So it's nice because I work Monday to Friday 9 to 5 pretty much. Or before Christmas, I had a lot of travel. So I was leaving earlier, getting home later. So I was leaving at like 6:30 in the morning, getting home at like 6:30 at night. It was nice actually just today, just to kind of be the two of us. And sometimes that's just so much fun because you can kind of see him, and when his brothers aren't around, he's a lot more kind of open to kind of doing stuff. Probably because he knows his brothers aren't going to come and interrupt. So it was nice just being the two of us today, which was fun.
Yeah, you get a different kid when you get just the one-on-one. Yeah, which is nice. All right, James, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for spending some time with us and letting us know about your family and what it's like over there across the pond over there in Scotland. That was pretty bad because you're laughing at me. All right.
I was just thinking, I was thinking my co-host, Katie Brinkley, she tried a Scottish accent last year. I was just thinking yours was way better. So it's fine.
It's funny. I had my hair done yesterday, and Jen that does my hair, I interviewed her as well, but her husband's family is all from Scotland, and they got married in a castle in Scotland and stuff. So I told her I was interviewing you today, and I'm like, you're going to have to listen to James now because yeah. So he's from your husband's homeland there. I think if he could move there, he would love to, but yeah. But they have a good spectrum here too.
My parents, they've discussed it a couple of times whether they might move back over this way, but I just say no, it's much warmer in California, so why would you move?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
I wouldn't move back here.
Yeah, no, but they're in the what'd you say, in the lake region though? Aren't they up north or no?
Yeah, they're in the Bay Area. Yeah, so
like San Francisco Bay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it's always 75 degrees every day in San Francisco, I've heard. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't leave that either.
No, definitely not.
No way. Okay, James. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us. It was a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me.